In today's video, I'm going to show you how to rebuild a carburetor on a Troy Bilt Storm 2660. First thing you need is this 7/16 nut driver to remove that, and there's two more on the other side. So let's get started on that. For those ones that give you a little trouble, we got liquid wrench. Spray a little bit of that on, wait a few minutes, and it should be loosey-goosey. Sometimes you gotta give it a little tap to drive it down in there. While we're waiting for our liquid wrench to work on this stuck bolt, let's go ahead and take our key out. Put this in the middle position because you want to get it right in that slot. See that slot right there? That little tiny opening, you want it to be right in there. Take your Husky flathead and we're gonna pop this off right here. When all else fails, bust out your channel locks and crack it right open. Finally got the first 4 bolts out. You'll notice 2 are short, 2 are long, and you want to set those aside so you don't lose them. Now we should be able to shimmy this cover off. Once you set the cover aside, then you can get in here with a Phillips head screwdriver and remove those 2 screws right there. Next step, get your 7/16 and remove those nuts right there. Okay, now this next step might get a little messy, so you definitely want to have a towel and a bucket. We're gonna crimp that gas line and cut it off so we can remove it, but we need to stop the gas flow. So that's our next step here. Okay, hopefully that's gonna stop our flow of gas, and then I can disconnect it from the carburetor. Got the gas line removed. I'd like to drain this gas, but I am not sure if this bucket is big enough to fit everything that's in there because I just filled the tank. Well, I guess we'll find out. For being bad gas, it's actually looking pretty clear. Okay, while that gas drains out, since I wasn't able to crimp it and stop the flow, I'm just gonna let it drain. Now, this piece comes off. Now we can actually see the carburetor. And there's the gasket. And it is looking kind of dirty in there. So let's take this bad boy off and clean it out. We are going to have to carefully remove those 2 lines right there. Got my Husky pliers, and I'm just going to carefully get in here. Oh man, that's a tight squeeze, but let me get in here and remove this thin, flexible metal line right here. Shit, I wonder if I can do it with my fingers. Well, let me see if I could pop the top one off first. Get that out of our way. out that thin one. Now let's get the top one. That one's giving me a little hassle. I'm gonna need 2 hands. In the meantime, the gas stopped draining, so I'm actually gonna move this bucket because breathing in this gas is making me a little oozy. Okay, got both those lines disconnected. Now let's see if we can pull out this carburetor. I have officially removed my first carburetor. It is dripping some thick yellow-brown goo, which is probably old bad gas. So we're gonna go take a minute and clean this carburetor out. And there is the carburetor. We don't want to lose those gaskets, but you can see the stuff coming out of it is pretty dirty, dark yellow, which you don't want. So I'm going to remove these parts and let's clean this out really good. Now, the first time you loosen this bolt, you're going to need a little elbow grease. So I had to bust out these channel locks and I finally cracked it loose. And there you go. There's the inside of the carburetor. It's definitely dirty. There's your O-ring. You want to clean that up, but don't lose it. And then we're going to clean all of this out today. Okay, we got the bowl cleaned out. Now we are going to clean out this floater by removing that pin, and then we can take this off and wipe it out. You want to make sure that that spring on that pin isn't clogged. And ours is pretty nice and clean now. Now we are going to clean out the carburetor. Okay, now you see these 2 holes? You're going to want to clean those out either with some wire or a needle, because that's where the gunk from stale gas will clog up the flow. So, and you could see dirt around the circle here. So that's our next step. We're going to clean this out real good. For the wire, I am going to use a bread tie. Yes, I am MacGyver. And that is going to clean out these holes. Okay, this next step, you want to get a precision screwdriver and get down in that hole because there's a little screw in there that you want to remove. But you want to be careful because you don't want to damage it inside. Be gentle with it because it's actually a brass screw. Okay, don't use the precision screwdriver because it's too small. It's not going to grip it and it's just going to strip it. So I pulled out my Husky with my diamond tip and it worked. Now you won't be able to completely screw it all the way out. You can only get it so far, actually about that far, and then you have to tap it out once it's loose, and then it falls right out. Now get your bread tie because you're going to want to clean these pieces out. Make sure there's no clogs in there. You could see this is a little damaged from the screwdriver. But if I use my Husky, I won't have any problems because it has a really good grip. Okay, here's my main jet. And this is where you're going to have your clogs. This is where your clogged carburetor issues come from. So you want to clean out every single one of them holes to clear out those clogs. And I'm going to do that with our bread tie. the one end with my finger and spray some brake cleaner through there to make sure that those holes are completely clear. I cleared them pretty good with the wire, but I'm gonna spray it. Okay, that piece is all cleaned out. Now I'm gonna clean out these holes with the brake cleaner. Make sure everything's out of there. Okay, got all that sprayed out. It's nice and clean in there now. Now to put this back together, this flat end goes against this flat end, and then we just pop that back in there. Okay, and I went ahead and screwed it back in there. Since the screw's a little damaged, you don't want to over tighten it in case you have to take it out again. Okay, next step is to put this floater on. Make sure it goes down into that hole, the pin, and keep the pin nice and straight. And then we're gonna lock it with this. Okay, now you wanna get your O-ring back on. Okay, when you put your cap back on, you will wanna make sure that this bolt is super tight because you're going to have gas in here and you don't want it leaking out everywhere. Okay, now that it's clean and completely put back together, now we can put it back on the snowblower.